Hello and welcome. I'm Nicole Bertrandria Huff for CocoHuff.com, and I'm happy that you're here with me tonight. I see that there are a few of you here, so let me know in the comments who you are if you're so inclined, and we're going to get started. So tonight we are making a holiday breakfast dish. It is my family's traditional holiday breakfast, at least for the past 5 or so years, and it is a breakfast strata. So we're going to talk all about that, about the components that go into it, about how to make your life easy, like where you can start ahead of time. This is actually a really good one to do ahead of time, and a lot of other fun stuff too. I have to put the other one in the oven. 1 second. So we have one to show at the end. And let me just tell you about myself. I think probably those who are here. Hi, Kimba. Nice to see you. I'm so glad you could join us tonight. This was actually I think you were part of the inspiration for this. So we've been doing this about 15 weeks, I think, at this point. So it's been a lot of fun. And these couple of weeks we're focusing on holidays. Last week we did individual beef Wellingtons. This week we're doing the breakfast dish. Next week probably another main meal. And as usual, if you have questions as we're going along, questions about what I'm doing, about cooking in general, about kitchen design, which is my main thing that I've been doing for the past 18 years in the New York and New Jersey area. Anything you want, I am happy to chit chat with all of you as I go along. So as usual, we have a lot going on here. I have onions and shallots and sausage and all sorts of stuff that we're going to put together pretty quickly, I think. So basically, a strata it's almost like a savory bread pudding. It's a bread-based casserole. You can really throw in anything you want, which is one of the beauties of it. And so anything I do, feel free to, modify or change how you like. So, and basically because we're talking about holidays, I'm trying to take this opportunity to throw in as much flavor as possible. I feel like the holidays are a good time to be sort of decadent in your flavor choices. So we're going to do caramelized onions, roasted garlic, a little mustard, a whole bunch of stuff into the sauce. So first we're going to talk about caramelized onions. I made some in advance because they do take quite a long time to properly caramelize, but we're going to talk about the process of how I did that. So let me just say, I put the ingredients on the announcement, and I ended up making a half portion of that because I realized that one serves 8 to 14 for the full recipe, and if I make 2 of them, I'm going to have too much here. So I'm doing a half and then half again in 2 different sizes actually, so you can see sort of how you could do it to make it work for your family. I'm doing this in individual portions, and you could also very easily just do it in one big casserole, and spoon it out in portions. It's easy either way. Hi Stacy, welcome. I'm always so happy to see you here. So, okay, we're going to start with caramelized onions. I'm going to get this pan going for that. Let me see, I always have to use a lighter, which is crazy. But basically, let me just say this about caramelized onions. I read an article like years ago that said, why do chefs lie to us about caramelized onions? And I was like, eureka, like this is the problem. Every recipe says, you know, stir your onions until golden brown, and then it says 5 minutes in parentheses. And the truth is it takes about 45 minutes to an hour to do it correctly. So this is why I've done it ahead of time, but we're going to talk about also how to make it a little bit faster. So, okay, I have an onion and a shallot here that I want to caramelize. We're going to do the regular slice. And this is again for like 4 to 6 portions as opposed to 8 to 12. Depends on how many you're feeding for the holidays. So we cut the cut the stem end off, cut it in half on a flat base, peel. We've done this almost every week. Peel this half, and I'm going to show 2 ways to thinly slice an onion. And if you want to tell me your holiday dishes while we're talking, I'd love to know that too. Or any requests for next week. I have some ideas, but requests are always good. We're going to cut this shallot in half as well. Sometimes there are 2 shallots inside, sometimes there are 1. I think this is 1 big one. And peel. All right. So we're working towards caramelized. Oh, this is 2, so now I have a little sliver here. And this other one. Okay, let's cut the end off of that. My pan is heating up. All right, come on. Whoops, that does not want to come off. Okay, all of my trimmings are going into a container for stock, as you know. And I like to show how to do this. Hi, Helene. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. It says I'm a friend of Kimba's. So first of all, thank you, Kimba, for telling people, and Helene, welcome. So, okay, I'd like to show how to do this without a lot of fancy equipment. So first we're gonna do one just thinly sliced and show the technique, and then we're gonna do one on a handheld mandolin. So basically, you know, we usually do down, across, and then this way to get a diced onion, but we want thinly sliced. So the way to do that and have it be consistent is to use your knuckles as a guide. So I'm putting my knuckles like a very tiny bit away from the edge, and then obviously keep all your fingers tucked under, and then the knife is sliding down over my knuckles as I go, and I'll get uniform slices. It's not as fast as the mandolin. I think it actually makes a more consistent product. Oops, and then it gets a little bit harder as you get towards the end. Keep your thumb tucked, that's the important one. Okay, so there's half of our onion, thinly sliced. And then this half, I'm just going to show you on the mandolin. It's fairly self-explanatory. I have it on a number 2 setting. I need to put some oil in my pan. Hold on. Let's just quickly get oil. This is a little bit of olive oil. Well, actually, I have 2, so I'm going to turn that way down because I have a step in between to show you. Okay, and then the mandolin, really watch your fingers. I am missing a tiny bit of my pointer finger because I got distracted one time. So don't be like me. Always pay attention, and as you get towards the end, kind of slow down. But you can see how quickly that happened, and they also separated on their own. Like where here you have to go like that to separate everything. So if you have a lot of onions to do, that's a good way. Okay, this part, and then the middle tends to come out in, oh, this one's coming out nicely, a little bits, and just kind of turn it, go on this edge. And don't take any chances. I mean, you know I like to use every bit of everything, but this is okay. It's better to have your fingers in the end. Okay, so these are going into a bowl before they go on the stove. This is an optional step. So basically the idea, we talk a lot about caramelizing on this live stream. We like to get that brown outside on everything, like meat, mushrooms, onions, to get the most flavor. So the way that happens, and if you ever make candy, I don't know if anyone here makes candy ever, like you can't get brown sugar until the moisture is gone. So onions have a lot of moisture. So one way that I get rid of some of it in advance is to microwave them for a couple minutes. So I'm just gonna stick this in the microwave for about 4 minutes and we'll come back to it. And you'll see how much liquid comes out. Okay, do that. And while that's happening, we'll chop our shallots. The shallots don't seem to take as long to brown. So let's thinly slice our shallots as well. I love shallots. I use them in everything. And they give a nice sweetness and depth of flavor. So we're trying to get layers of flavor basically. And we're going to cook things, add them to the bowl, cook other things, add them to the bowl, you know, until we have our full mixture that we're then going to bake with like an egg and milk custard to hold it together. Kind of break up the shallots so they're not in rings. And Helene, I don't know if you were here when I said, if you have any questions, comments, you want to talk about holiday food, anything that's on anyone's mind, or any requests, let me know, and we'll chat while we're doing this. So here's our shallots. I'm going to throw those right in the pan actually. And wait for our onions. And like I said, I did some ahead because this will take way too long. I also did some video footage of the onion process, the stirring and the full hour that I'm going to speed up, and I'll have that on YouTube hopefully tomorrow. So you can see the whole thing beginning to end. Okay, so while we're waiting for our onions, we're going to do the sausage. There's a lot of similarities between this and the Thanksgiving stuffing that we did actually. The dried bread, the, you know, adding moisture back in, the sausage. So I was thinking about it like, wow, it's almost the same, a little bit different flavor profile. So I'm taking the sausage out of its casing because we wanted to kind of chop up a little bit more. These still kind of cooked up like patties earlier, so I had to chop them after the fact too. But let's get you on there. You can see our shallots are cooking and our sausage is going in. You could use breakfast sausage too. That might be nice. This is just Italian sausage, but like a bratwurst, a breakfast sausage, because it is breakfast, would be delicious. Some of it's sticking. Oh well. All right, do that. That burner's not on. Let's do that too. Okay. There we go. We just want to brown it. You don't want to put raw sausage into the mixture. It just won't, it will let all of its fat out into the mixture and it won't have the same amount of flavor. Okay. Okay. Sausage, and we're going to try to, you know, the way you would with, washing my hands, with ground beef. We're going to like chop it up as we go and try to get it to break into little pieces while it's cooking. So let's do that a little bit. Where am I? There we go. That's probably not good for my nonstick pan. I'll do it gently. Gently. I love talking about kitchen equipment too. If anyone has any questions about that, that's always fun. All right, we're gonna wait for that to brown. And I'm going to move on from the onions since I do have some finished ones. So I will look at the bread. Okay. So I have my bread already dry here. So this, like I said, was half. It's a half portion. So I had a whole ciabatta loaf that I cubed, and if you want to see, you know, I did this for the stuffing one as well. I cubed it on the video, which took a long time. I don't know if you need to watch me do that again, but basically I cut it lengthwise in thirds and then about 1-inch cubes like this. And similar to the stuffing, we want to be aware of, you know, how big of a bite do you want to take of all these different things when you're actually eating it. So this was, I prefer a ciabatta if you can find it. It has like a chewy outside texture and a nice, a little bit denser flavor, but really any bread would work. You know, an Italian loaf, a baguette has like a lot of nice crust to it. So you just basically want to get this size, and then one way to dry it is to leave it out overnight once you've cubed it, and it will just do the job for you, or in a low oven, which is what I did, and it's like really hard. So the idea being, we're going to add a lot of moisture that has flavor in it back in, and you want it to like suck that all up, and instead of just having the water moisture from the bread. Am I talking too much about this? I don't know. The water moisture from the bread, and then the whole thing will be kind of soggy. So that's really the key to the ciabatta is the strata is the dried bread. All right, I'm stirring shallots. I think my microwave just beeped, so let's look at our onions too. Hold on here. So these are 4 minutes in the microwave. Like I said, this is it's optional, but it speeds up the process a little bit. And I'm going to bring you to my sink. Can you see my sink? Now can you see my sink? Maybe. Yeah. Oh, you can see that it's a mess. Okay. So here's how much liquid came out of these onions. Like a good quarter of a cup. I'm going to push that down and try to get more. Which means that liquid doesn't have to evaporate on the stove top, and we just sped up the process a little bit. All right, so push that down. You can actually add the salt for, oh, it's still coming. That's a lot. It's probably a third of a cup of liquid came out of that one onion. I should measure it sometime. That would be interesting. I think I'll do that. I'll measure how much actually comes out. If you salted it, I think a little bit more would come out than that. So, all right, I'm putting these onions that are already soft into the shallots, and a little bit of salt on there as well. Oh, Mia is saying, hi Mia. Mia's saying, oh yeah, the microwave trick is a good one, right? It really works. It gives you kind of a jump start on the whole thing. That could take forever. And also that OXO makes a multi-prong meat chopper that's gentle on non-stick pans. I think I need that. I don't know if it's come across, probably, in all these videos. I'm a little rough on my cooking equipment, but I just like to grab and go and do what I'm doing, so I just use what I need. So that sounds like a good tool to have. I'm going to look that up, and actually I'll put a link to it in the description and on the YouTube video. Okay, so these are cooking away. I'm going to flip over the sausage, and then we're going to start actually putting this all together. So let's see how it came. It's like a patty still. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes it comes together more crumbly. So we're going to have to chop it. It doesn't want to do its job. So we've done this before for like stew and stuff. We're making components, we're combining them. They need to cool a little bit before we add eggs. Before you ever add eggs, you don't want hot things so you don't end up with scrambled eggs. So we're just going to go in stages. We have our bread. This is going into a big bowl. That's our foundation. My sink's about to get messier. All right, and then these are the caramelized onions that I cooked for an hour. So that's one onion and one shallot, like we just did. That's right here. Cooked down for an hour. And oh, excuse me. So basically, you can cook it pretty high until you start to see browning, and then you need to lower it and stir and stir and stir, or you'll get like little burnt edges that are a little bit too caramelized, and the rest won't be cooked yet. So that was this process. And this also, oh, we should do this sometime. This is also how you would make French onion soup. Maybe a little bit deeper than this, but this plus some beef broth, a little sherry, and then you have French onion soup. So that's easy. But these are going into our bowl. That needs to be tossed a lot. The onions kind of tend to clump together, so let's do that. Get them dispersed before we keep going. You can hear how dry the bread is, which is great because it will absorb all of our flavor. We used to do poached eggs on Christmas morning, which, if you have more than a few people, it's not an easy task, and it's something I'm going to learn a little bit better. We're going to talk about eggs in the new year, but poached eggs on demand for a crowd is not an easy task. All right, stirring this. You can see they're still totally white, but they're pretty wilted. We'll just watch how it comes together over the hour. Okay, our sausage looks ready, so I'm going to chop that up, or let it rest for a second actually. Okay, sausage coming out of the pan. Kimba says she loves French onion soup. I know, isn't it the best, comforting thing with bread and cheese? Let's do that. We will do that in the new year. We've kind of already just done it, but we'll do it again with the whole shebang, the broiler, everything. Okay, here's our sausage. And it's hot, but I'm just going to, I don't think you should always have to do this, but this one, and you can buy sausage without the casing too, which makes that a little bit easier, but you want small bites of it. Okay, just like everything else in here. It's not fully cooked, but it has browning on it, so that's really what we're looking for. And I think my camera's fogging up from some steam maybe. All right, and this is going into our bowl as well. You can see this is so simple, and you can do it a day ahead, so you don't need to stress on Christmas morning. We eat a lot, I guess most people do, we eat a lot on Christmas, so we tend to have, well, the kids are getting older, so they're not up at the crack of dawn anymore, thank goodness, but we would open the stockings and some presents, and then have a full breakfast with my parents and family and stuff, and then do more presents, and then the dinner, cocktails, all that, it goes on all day. So you don't want to be working like crazy all day to make it happen. All right, that looks delicious already, I have to say. Okay, tossing, and now we're going to talk about, we're going to do cheese, but I'll let the sausage cool a little bit so we don't melt it all. I have some arugula. We're just going to chop it. It's only a tiny bit. It actually wilted in this bowl a little bit. We're going to chop that up, and some chives as well. So I like to save one chive or half a chive per serving so that you can garnish with them at the end. It looks pretty. I think I'm going to get 7 small servings out of this one. I got 4, the same amount, made 4 large servings. I'm planning on 7 small ones right now. So 7 chives to the side, and we're going to chop the rest. Okay, I think I talked at one point about how much I love chopping chives because they come out into these tiny little tubes, and they're so cute, and they just taste delicious. So this was like half a pack of chives from the store because the ones from my garden are done, sadly. Oops, those little ends are kind of bendy. And things like this need color. So this and the arugula add some color and some, vegetables. Put that in the bowl. And then chop this arugula. That got a little bit sad looking, but it's getting cooked, so that's okay. If it was a lot of arugula, or a lot of spinach, I would recommend cooking it down. You could do more than this actually, this is a little meager. But I would recommend cooking it down the way we're doing with everything else to get the liquid out of it. Especially spinach always has so much liquid, but this is more of just a taste. So I think it will be fine in there. All right. All right. Arugula's going in. And then we're going to talk about cheese. Cheese makes everything delicious. I mean, dishes like this, it's like someone woke up and said, like, how much flavor can I get into one thing? Just pack it in, and that's why I love it for a holiday. It's also a really easy overnight guest when we someday have overnight guests again. A good thing that you can just put in the oven in the morning, straight from the fridge, and feed a crowd. All right, cheese. Let me see what I have here. I have 3 kinds of cheese. You don't have to do 3 kinds of cheese, but I feel like it just adds to the complexity of the flavor. So I'm going to grate some, and some I have already in a bag grated. But I have a Gruyere. I love the flavor of Gruyere. I always think any French dish needs it, especially the French onion soup that we're going to do. It has like a nutty earthiness to it and not too strong. That's a great one. This is an aged cheddar, and the aging makes it really rich and fantastic. And then this is just, you know, grocery store cheddar to plump it up, and cheddar is also delicious. So let's just grate these up. We need about 4 to 6 ounces, and we're going to put most of it in there and a little bit on top at the end to make it even more decadent. That's simple. All right, hold on. Now our cheddar. There's our Gruyere. You could go with a little more Gruyere. All right, aged cheddar. I love this one. I just eat this straight. It's so good. Let me take a quick break to stir the onions. I feel like we've talked about this in the past, that things start to sound different when they're browning, and it's true of sugar. When you're cooking down sugar, it's true of this. This started to have almost like a crackling sound, and it's like you can tell it's starting to brown. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. There are little bits. So I'll let it go a little more, and then turn it down a little bit. Okay. Grating cheese. This whole dish is just a danger zone for your fingertips. The mandolin and the grater, just be careful. Okay, we have all of that. That's a good amount, so let's start with this, and then, oops, here's our bowl. And then we'll throw in some extra cheddar too. All right, I think this is going really quickly, so that's a good thing. And I like to toss as I go so you can tell that each ingredient has been incorporated. So if you do it at the end, especially the onions, it's hard to tell if there's going to be one big bite of onion or they're spread out properly. Okay, so for anyone who's just joining us, you see the numbers going up and down. We have, what do we have in here? We're making our holiday or group what am I trying to say? Overnight guest group breakfast strata. We have our dried ciabatta, caramelized onions and shallots, arugula, chives, and cheese. So far, I think that's it, right? So, and now we're going to, what are we gonna do? We're going to make the custard base for it. So basically milk and eggs together forms the custard base, like with any kind of bread pudding. This is the main difference between the stuffing, where we wanted still individual pieces of bread, and this we wanted to sort of meld together, you know, and really soak up all this liquid and become more like a one entity in the dish. So a lot more liquid than we did before, and we're going to disperse the flavor throughout. So if you remember when we did stuffing, we had our chicken stock, and we added the egg to the chicken stock so that you know that it coated everything as opposed to plopping an egg in there. So we're gonna start with our eggs, but just one of them, so we can add some mustard and some roasted garlic and make sure that it gets dispersed throughout the liquid. So let's start with our roasted garlic, which I want to talk about a little bit. And hi Teresa, welcome. Let me know if you have questions. I see you said you're late to the party. No, you're just fashionably late. And I would be happy to catch you up. So roasted garlic, I made this earlier. It's one of my absolute favorite ingredients for adding flavor to anything, and it's so easy to make. And let me just sort of tell you how I did it. So I made a separate video of this as well, so that we can see the process, and that will get posted too. It's so simple, and it's just so delicious. So these are just 3 heads of garlic. Chop the tops off of them, pour the oil over it, and I like to put it in this tin foil so you can save, first of all, it's just cleaner and easier, and the heat stays in there. And then you can always save this oil. So you can't really overdo it with the oil because you're going to save it. And you have a garlicky oil to make other things out of it. Helene gives her thumbs up approval for roasted garlic. It's so true, right? So then this was an hour at 350, and when you take it out, the garlic cloves are soft and kind of golden like this, and you just squeeze them each out of their little pod. So that's 1. I'm going to do about 3, I think, in this dish. You really can't overdo it, and then you lose that pungent, like sharp garlic flavor, and it has just a mellow, delicious richness to it. So that's 4. Let's start with 4 for this. And then, I make roasted garlic all year, but I make it particularly a lot through the holiday season. So next week, I think we're going to talk about a roast, like a rack of lamb or beef, a crown rib roast, beef, all of those dishes. If you rub roasted garlic all over the whole outside, I'm giving away the secrets for next week already. Roasted garlic all over the outside, it just adds a ton of flavor, and it's so easy to do with your herbs and everything. Did I throw this in already? I can't remember. I'm just gonna add, if I did, it's okay. We can't go wrong. More cheese in there. All right, so the reason I did the garlic first, and now I'm gonna do the mustard, is so it disperses through the liquid. Ooh, David P says he loves roasted garlic. That's good, since you're gonna be having this with me on the holiday. Yeah, you cannot go wrong with roasted garlic. All right, a little Dijon mustard also going into this bowl. About a tablespoon. This is a half tablespoon measure. And I'm going to whisk these 2 things. The roasted garlic will become a paste almost immediately. There we go. So see how it's already now broken up, and no one's going to get a whole clove in their mouth. And now we'll start adding the eggs. So the half recipe would be 5 eggs. And we'll just incorporate them one at a time. David P says he can't wait. I can't wait too. It's going to be delicious. 2. I think I could do the last 3 at once and beat them in. All right. And I'm sure if you've been following along, you know I save those shells for compost, and the calcium in the shells is so good for your plants, especially tomatoes. So just always keep those to the side with your other trimmings. All right, we have 5 eggs in there. I'm going to beat them. I think when you think about the order of things, it just makes life easier. Like you put the eggs in first, not the milk, because it's hard to find the yolks in the milk if you do the milk first, stuff like that. It just makes your life easier. So we have all our 5 eggs, our roasted garlic and mustard in there. I'm going to put a pinch of salt in there as well. And some pepper. Oh, and I went past the point of starting to brown with my onions. Let's see how they're doing. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. So at this point, I don't know if you can see this. Let me turn the light down a tiny bit. See if that helps. Maybe. It has like some pieces are getting really browned, and we don't want that. So at this point, you lower it to low heat and stir continuously, probably for another half an hour actually, until they're really brown. It's very difficult to go too far if you're watching it on low heat, because the more caramelized it is, the better. All right. Okay, so we were doing pepper into this bowl as well. Mia says it's reminding me of the family stone, but not right. I can't remember right now what that is. I know I should know. Oh my gosh, references that I can't remember. Everyone else is probably laughing. Okay, and a tiny bit of nutmeg. So in one of the videos, which one was it? Oh, the eggplant. We made a bechamel, which we're going to do again next year. White cream sauces and cream-based sauces are always very nice with a teeny bit of nutmeg. Obviously not too much in a savory dish, but they bring it up the flavor a little bit. That's about enough. You don't want it to taste like cookies, you know, but like that. Okay, and now our milk. Okay, I have, again, for half recipe, I have 3/4 of a cup of milk. This is 2%. You could use half and half for the whole thing, since it's already half milk and half cream. I'm just doing milk and cream. So that was 3/4 of a cup of milk, and I'll do about 1/4 of a cup of cream. And then we have our liquid base together for this. Oh, Mia, you know, Mia's talking about the family stone. I don't think I do know that. I'm not much of a movie person, as my brother who's on the call will attest. So maybe we're gonna have to watch that. I was like, I know this is something I should know. Okay, all of this deliciousness goes over the bread mixture now. And then we're gonna start putting it in its little ramekins. But first we give it a good stir. Whoops. Okay, clean up a little bit. And let's toss this. So you want it to start absorbing a little bit. My brother said it's true, she's not a movie buff. My brother was a movie major in college, film major, sorry. You were a movie major. He was a film major in college, so he's constantly upset with me about the movies I have not seen. And now the whole world knows it. But if you want a list of good movies that you should see, all the classics, maybe he can make one for us. All right, we're tossing this, and we're going to do a few things to make it extra delicious. Let me just check the one that's going on in here. Oh my God, it looks so good. I'm turning the oven off, because I don't want to overdo it, and you're going to be wowed when you see that. Okay, toss, 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 and we're going to, how am I going to do this? Let's see. I don't think I need one of those things. What we're going to do, just to make it extra amazing for the holidays, is put this into the individual ramekins and then top it with puff pastry like we did last week, and some cheese. And so I was looking back through my pictures over the years that I've been making this, and the ones that are just the strata, I mean, they look very nice, but it has more of a bumpity top. And the ones that have a puff pastry layer on top look more, a little bit more finished, a little fancier, and of course the deliciousness of the butter and the puff pastry and everything is amazing. So that's what we're gonna do. And it's totally optional, but really good. So I think I need to, I don't have much room here, so I need to roll out the puff pastry first, put them aside, and then put them into the ramekins. So I left the puff pastry in the, I'm gonna flip this so we have a good surface for it. I left it in the fridge because, like we talked about last week, puff pastry needs to stay cold or all the butter starts to melt into the layers, microscopic layers of pastry, and it won't puff as much. So let me grab it over here. All right, and we're going to roll this out and make some circles for our individual stratas. So, all right, we did this last week too. I like to just pinch these seams together so they don't separate when it's cooking. And I'm going to flour my board a little bit so it doesn't stick. And roll. Puff pastry just makes anything more delicious. Oh, I'm going to make a separate video of the puff pastry breakfast that I didn't get to last week too, so there's more of this to come. Oh, my onions are browning away. Hold on here. Let's stir those. They're getting there, but you saw the other ones how dark they were. These are not there yet. So we had the pre-made ones just to get ahead. Okay, back to this. And you want it big enough that you can make enough circles for however many you're making. I have a little bit extra. They're usually 2 sheets in a pack, so I have some extra from before in case this doesn't make it, because I'm doing 7 right now. Okay, and you're going to see 2 different sizes because I did big ones earlier. I'm doing slightly smaller now. It depends on your, how hungry is your family and how much other stuff you have at the breakfast table too. That's important. All right, that looks great. I'm going to cut them, put them on a little plate. So I have a lot of cookie cutters. I love to make cookies and cakes. So I happen to have these round ones. It's about 3.5 inch round. You can also just use the ramekin itself. So you can take these and cut. It's a little bit harder. No, that worked. That worked 100%. Just cut it like that, and then you know it's the exact same size as the container. These are a little bigger. That's fine too. It tends to shrink a little bit in the cooking. 3, 4, 5. Oh, Helena's giving me a second for the family stone too. I think I need to maybe watch it tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That was no problem at all. Okay, we can even get more. You can reuse this. You kind of fold it back in. It doesn't stretch as much the second time, but you can definitely make more out of that. You can make some cheese twists, little hors d'oeuvres. The puff pastry has endless possibilities. All right, those are going onto a plate. And you won't believe when you see how thin this is. You're not going to believe what the finished ones look like. I'm kind of in awe right now. And now the last step is putting them into their containers. So I have these ramekins. I love ramekins. I clearly enjoy making individual portions of things. You can make, creme brulee, that type of stuff as well, in the flatter ones. So I have a few different sizes. These are the second from largest that I have, and I have some little baby ones that you can put pudding in, that type of stuff. So they're very useful. They're inexpensive. These are 6-ounce ramekins. I think the bigger ones are 8 or 10. I can confirm that. And I have 7 here. So, okay, moving on. Let's fill them up with it, evenly distribute all of this. And push it down a little bit so they fill to the top. So I have them on a tray so they can, you know, if they overflow at all while they're cooking, it will catch that, and also just to make it easier. Obviously your fingers are clean, just use your fingers, push it in there. Whoa, I'm dropping them all though. And there's going to be liquid at the bottom, and we're going to pour it over all of them as much as we can. Oh yeah, I definitely did not need to make twice as much as this. So, like I said, this made 4 big ones, and now we're 7 little ones. It could probably even make 8 little ones. So this half recipe, which I'll repost, was quite enough. All right, but I can pack more of these. So hold on, let's push it down. Okay, keep going. We're almost there. That first one didn't get much. I think this really is 8 little ones. Okay, so now we know 8 6-ounce ramekins would be totally good with this amount. My dog is standing under my feet, like hoping I'm gonna drop it on the floor, but I'm not, hopefully. All right, and there's some liquid in this bowl. And that's important because that's where all the flavor is. So we want to get this over each one to soak in. I'm going to give them each a little push down too. All right, did a pretty even job. I made a little bit of a mess, but that's why I have a silk pad under here, which is a great thing to have to make your sheet pans non-stick and make cleanup a lot easier too. All right, how's that? Okay, we have our ramekins filled, and now I'm going to put, it's a little bit messy, but that's okay. Clean that up a little. And now I'm going to put puff pastry and cheese on top of each one. It will just look beautiful. It gives a little extra flavor. It's going to be great. Okay, so just, this is the simplest thing ever. Just go like that. Lay these little circles on top. Usually I do an egg wash with puff pastry like we did last week, but I think the cheese kind of gives its oil and you don't really need to. With this, although you could, and that would be a nice thing as well. So a sprinkle of cheese on top of each one. I am not paying attention to these onions at all. I kind of abandoned them. All right, here we go. They're looking good though. So these I'll save. I mean, like we said, you can make so many other things with this. You can make an omelet, a soup, put them on a burger. So this was just a good thing to make in general. All right, one more, no, 3 more of the cheese. That's exactly how much cheese I have. Okay, now these are going into a 350-degree oven for about 25 minutes. So especially because it's not very cold, 25 minutes is sort of the magic number for puff pastry. If it was coming out of a refrigerator, puff pastry can even come out of a freezer. If it, not this with all this stuff in it, but a puff pastry hors d'oeuvre and stuff like that. And then it takes more like half an hour, a little bit extra time. So I'm going to stick these in the oven and pull out the one that I already did. Wait, I have to pull out that one first. You're going to be wowed. I'm wowed. I'm actually wowed at how tall and delicious it looks. So let's look. Oh my God. it really puffed up a lot. Look at these. Oh my gosh. Ah, they look amazing, I have to say. I say that about my own cooking all the time, actually. Wow, let's take a look at these. Okay, so not only did well, can you see from the side? Let me just lift one up. Not only did the puff pastry really puff up, but the eggs really puffed up. So we have, I mean, this is a nice presentation, right? We have this like souffle, sausage, onion flavored extravaganza going on here, and it looks so pretty. It looks so pretty. Okay, so thank you, David. David said it looks great. It really does, right? All right, so what I would normally do is put one on the plate and then put some garnish on it and other things around. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to show you how I do that. Let me move it to the side. I wish it was Christmas breakfast right now and we could just eat them. Stacy says, wow, thank you, Stacy. They really look good, right? Let me hold them up one more time because they really looked pretty impressive coming out of the oven. Thank you, Helene. Helene says it looks beautiful as well. I really wish someday we're going to do live guests here. So every week I'm like, I just want to share it with everyone. And someday we will. So I have a little plate here. We always have panettone for Christmas as well, Christmas breakfast. Oh, let me show you the panettone I have. This one's actually from Trader Joe's and it has like mocha chips in it. It is so delicious. But I like them toasted. I may have over toasted this a little bit. Every year, you know how like every year when you put the marshmallows on the sweet potatoes and it's like don't burn the marshmallows. Every year it's like don't burn the panettone because it cooks very quickly with all that sugar in it. Stacy says, how much can you do in advance? Thank you for reminding me. So almost really all of it actually. So up to the mixture part and the puff pastries. As long as the mixture is cool room temperature, when you put the puff pastry on top, you can just take that whole thing and refrigerate it. So when they were on the tray and the puff pastry was on top, you could cover that in saran wrap and refrigerate it for at least 24 hours. I'd say up to 24 hours. And you know, you're not as worried about it being soggy like you would be with stuffing, or it's going to still incorporate the eggs and puff up and everything. So really the full thing can be done in advance. And you don't really need to bring it to room temperature either because you do want the puff pastry to be cold. Oh, Jane and Teresa, thank you for saying it looks great. So panettone is just delicious. It gives like a sweet element to the meal. I cut them in half and then cut them this way in stripes to get even, you know, bread-shaped pieces. So I have that here, and a grapefruit for some freshness. I'm going to put some pomegranate seeds on top of my grapefruit just to make it fancy. I don't need sugar. Sometimes this one doesn't need sugar, but sometimes a grapefruit needs some sugar. So we would do that and cut between all of the segments. And then we need our, Jane says she wants breakfast with me. I want breakfast with you too. Let's do, this is the year we'll be doing it again. Okay, our strata. And of course we need a piece of bacon on there. So I have some pre-cooked bacon. How can I arrange this to look fancy? I don't know, something like that. And we saved these chives in the beginning. Chives are like a magical garnish. They just make everything look a little bit more restaurant quality. So I'm going to take this long one and cut it in half with my fingers and do something like, whoops, like that. Ta-da! Okay, so we did it. There is our Christmas breakfast or holiday breakfast, a ski trip weekend breakfast, anything you saw. It was very no fuss, even though there was a ton of flavor in there. I should add, the roasted garlic you can do long ahead. So if you're, if you're trying to add these layers of flavor, roasted garlic keeps forever in the fridge. The caramelized onions you could do several days ahead, so that you have all these components that you could dry the bread weeks ahead. Nothing ever happens to that. So the components are all ready made, and then you put it together, and then it can be a day ahead. So you really don't ever have a day of stress trying to make something like this. So this was really fun. Let me try it. Let me give you one more look at this. That's very hot on the outside, just remember. I think it needs 2 pieces of bacon. I mean, it's a holiday dish. I'm overfeeding my guests at this point, but it looks nice. There we go. And let's just give it a try. Oh, it's like custardy and nice in there. Oh my God. Wait. I got sausage and egg. I just need to try the bread too. It's very tender and very flavorful. It's so good. And the bread's really good too. It's soaked up all the egg and the cream and all those flavors that we put in there. So, I'll let you look at it while I'm chewing. There we have it. There's our strata with bacon and panettone, a chive garnish, our puff pastry cap. And I hope that you'll all try this. And I would love to have you here to try this, but I hope that you'll all try making it. I love when you send me pictures when you do try them, so that always makes me happy. And as usual, if you have requests or questions or anything like that, anytime, send me a private message, let me know, ask on the live stream, anything you like. Next week, we'll do one more bit of holiday. And then in the new year, we're going to, or I guess we have one more between Christmas and New Year's, but we're going to start going back to basics, like eggs and sauces and things like that as well, that can be incorporated into all of your dishes that you make. So this has been a lot of fun. Thank you for being here with me today. And I hope that you have a delicious week and try some of these recipes. So I am Nicole Huff for CocoHuff.com, as you all already know, but I'll say it for the end. Please go to my YouTube page, which is like a fledgling YouTube page, Coco Huff on YouTube, and give it a like, which would help me tremendously, as well as Instagram, Facebook, and a little bit on TikTok. And I love you all. Thank you for being here, and have a great week. Bye-bye.